These cartoons can be hard to do. This is the smallest script I think I have. It might tell you something when I tell you that's the quality, quality assurance guy, so obviously everything has to be typed quite small. If you can't read that, I feel like a priest at Sunday Mass here back in Ireland. I'm going to tell you, come forward, there's plenty of room at the front, please come to the front. We'll be doing the Gospel according to St. Ken and St. Jeff, okay? How the Project Lazarus was raised from the dead by the love of agility. And the Sermon on the Mount, blessed are the testers. So, if you can read that, great. If you can't, you may struggle slightly with some of what's coming. By the way, this is when I decided to go for a different look. Try out something different artistically. Okay, my name is Robert Finan. I am an Agile coach at TechTalk. And my hobby is not writing short stories, it's writing short cartoons. Okay? And strangely enough, I decided on agility as a topic I could possibly write cartoons about, draw cartoons about, okay? So, this is called Full Metal Agile. It's a play on words for anyone who knows about Full Metal Jacket. It's got a Marine drill sergeant in it, and that's the start of films, it's the start of this. That was a pun intended, except when I actually posted that, I said it's like a platoon, but actually it's Apocalypse Now, I think, is the one I was looking for. Because one of them had the smell of coffee in the morning, I had the smell of Agile in the morning. So, how did this come about? I'm gonna who's at rats? Who am I going to bore with this part of the story again? Okay, not too many people, right? Guys, when I held this talk in Graz, and I'm going to give you the start of this talk because I think it's important to give a bit of context. Kevin, when he was talking today, said he writes short stories and he gets something done and he finds out what he's learned something at the end of it by doing short stories, okay? I've been drawing since I was about 8 or 9. And without giving so much away, that's like 40 years. All right? And I always wanted to draw a comic. That was my goal. When I was growing up, I read, no one's going to get this, in 2018, battle action, stuff like that, black and white stuff. I wanted to draw comics. I have tried over the years to draw comics. I've started. I've got to page 9. And I just crashed and burned. I never got it finished. Okay? So at one point, I was sitting there and I was going, this is kind of weird. I spend my time going out to customers, and I go, guys, cut it up fine. One bit at a time. Don't try it all at once. Don't do big upfront design. Do it fine. Evolutionary design. This is what we do. Split stories. We deliver small pieces. We learn. We live with imperfection, and then we do it better the next time. Oh, I'm fucking way out of my art. Oh, that's precious. No, either it's perfect, or I'm not doing it. Okay? So anytime an idea for comic or art and stuff like that, I would get 6 million ways this could be drawn, right? Two people are talking to each other. Okay, this side on side, is it from his perspective, that perspective, are we looking like this, does it go like this? Too many options. Doesn't get done. So, I decided to apply everything I preach to other people to trying to get a comic done. Cartoon in this case. Actually, I call them strips. They're comic strip, okay, so we're just doing it like 4 boxes across the page, right? And I broke it down just like I would do if I was a product owner, if I was working with a company. I swear to God, I said, buy the internet domain, pay the bill for the internet domain, decide if you're using 2 boxes, 3 boxes, or 4 boxes. But if you're doing a test, I literally broke it down to pieces like that, because otherwise I wouldn't have started, okay? And my objective, here's an example, that was it. I put it in Trello, anyone recognizes it. There's stuff down there, number of frames, drill sergeant images, I need reference pictures, different perspectives, what style, team members, okay? I literally put it in small, thin slices so I get something done. Otherwise I give up, as usual. Any resonance here, Gary? And I set a goal. I said, right, I'm going to try and get, for 3 months, I'm going to get like 12 cartoons done, roughly 1 week. That's my objective. And I'm going to time box myself. This is the key. 3 hours to draw a cartoon. Okay? It's going to be 3 hours to draw a cartoon. That's how, and whatever is finished at the end of the 3 hours gets published. Whether I like it or I don't like it. So trust me, you're going to see a bunch of pictures up here that I'm not happy with. And I have gone back to other cartoons, and you guys aren't going to notice, but I've gone back, and I've colored things in differently, I've removed stuff, I've changed it. We did a second iteration of the cartoon. Okay? So these are minimal viable cartoons, cartoon comic strips, okay? That's what was coming out at the end. Minimal viable cartoon comic strips. If you look at my website, it is god-awful, okay? The default WordPress look would be better than the look on the website, okay? You know why? It's not part of a viable cartoon. No one's going to say, oh, well, I always look at his site. He's got a wonderful background image. It's beautiful. I just can float in with the background image. Wow. That ain't going to happen. So, there's a first attempt at this, right? And this is the feedback from the product owner. It's great. I'm the product owner and the artist and I am the DevOps too. I publish it. I have a whole chain in me. There's a certain advantage that I can tell you. What was that? When there's less people involved, it goes faster. Yeah, so this was an advantage. And how many people know the motto of the United States Marines? Semper Fidelis. First cartoon was going to be Semper Agilis. Now, that was because this, right, leaving out the important stuff, I suppose. The Agile Drill Sergeant as a concept, and this is a very important thing to understand about the Agile Drill Sergeant. At the time, I was an Agile coach, I'm still an Agile coach, but you're working for an IT service delivery company or an IT services company, okay? You don't always get to choose your customers. Actually, quite often you never get to choose your customers. You're just like sent in there to do that, okay? So you send in to someone and they say, get that team to use Kanban, okay? Agilize those guys. I want to start working in those teams in 2 weeks. It's quite often not a position when the sales team's already sold your services to actually say, well, I don't really feel like doing that. I think it's going to work. They don't seem to be that interested. I was not having teams run up to me and go, Robert, we need your services. Could you come and help us do this? So there was a huge amount of frustration about knowing, having experienced agility and having seen it work. And then we put in situations where it wasn't exactly going into the most receptive place ever, okay? And there was a great gap between what I wanted to be doing, what I wanted to see happening, and what was actually happening in the field where I was, okay? And so sitting around with the guys one evening over a beer, here we'll make regular appearances in this comic. We came up with the idea of an Agile Drill Sergeant, which, like I said to you, that's the point. These ideas are pretty cheap. Getting them to actually do something isn't. There's a small aside here that I find creativity in beer peaks just in the middle of the third pint. Right? So that is known, amongst my friends, as the epiphany pint. Like an epiphany, you go, that's it, that's so cool. The problem is by pint 6, you've forgotten what the great idea was that you had in pint 3. So a little bit of word advice, when you're drinking, you have the epiphany pint, write it down. Send yourself a message, write yourself a WhatsApp, do whatever it takes, but write it down. Don't spend the next morning going, that's a great idea, my head hurts. What was it? Because we've had that happen a few times. And the Agile Drill Sergeant, one of those ideas, I wanted to bang heads together. Okay, I was really frustrated. I'm not allowed to do that, I'm a coach. I go around stroking people and giving them hugs and telling them it's all going to be okay. It's all inside you, so I really want to go, but don't you understand why Agile is good for you? Okay, and this frustration, okay, led to the Agile Drill Sergeant. Okay, because he gets to bang heads together, right? He drills it into them. Now, the catch was, or the irony is, and this is really going to do me at some point, that's what I want. The catch is that I've actually mellowed, and things have got better, and I'm not really sure I want to draw the Agile Drill Sergeant anymore, because I'm not that angry anymore. So I just want to put this, can I put this in context? At the time, when I started all this, I was sort of frustrated, and that's what's there. This is what you'll see at the start, okay? So anyway, there you go, feedback on the initial thing, customer feedback. We're going to have to change stuff, we're going to have to do this, we're going to have to do the other thing, right? What do I got next? Yeah. So, I did exclude the basic idea of ideas and putting stuff together. I would love to be so good that I could do one of these one-panel cartoons. People do one-panel cartoons. Wow. Get the joke in one panel. These guys are great. Blows my mind. I can't do it at all. I can't even do it before. But you've got here, and so this is kind of freed up a bit. This is something you can sketch whenever I'm sitting in the train or something on those lines. You play around with stuff. The one panel, you'll see that come up later on. This guy just kind of fell out of it. I used him straight away once I had him. That was pretty much accepted to the idea. Now, What we have is, and this is what I want you to understand, at the start there was a lot of frustration. So, who here has held a retro? Being responsible for running a retro, excellent. You might find the next thing familiar. Who enjoys holding retros? Less hands. It's a pity, it's actually my favorite Agile meeting. Honestly, I swear to God, I really like it, if it's going well. So, this is what would often happen at my retros. This would be fairly typical. Getting people's attention was a little bit difficult. What's the point in doing this? I'm a developer. Why are we talking? Talking is not software development. Yes, talking is software development. But this is what was happening, and the Agile drill sergeant's way of dealing with this would be like this. I'm not allowed to do that. But he is. Okay? Right? That's my frustration. I wanted to bind heads, I wanted to... And yeah, you can go through it. Let's be very honest here. If you're retro, they won't have that shit at any. So we can argue about where you are with that. But if you're being forced to do this stuff with people, if you're doing Agile rather than being Agile, then this is going to happen. Okay, you find yourself in position as an external coach, you brought in, you're told to run retro, nobody wants you there. So that was the way the Agile drill sergeant was going to take care of that. And that was what I wanted to get. And a lot of the early comics, you go back and look at this and go through it all. The early comics, he throws his fists around the place a lot. Not something a guy who's built like me should actually do. It probably wouldn't go well. So one of the things is when we're, I've always felt slightly, for quite a while, I felt kind of insecure about using the term Agile coach. Right? I'm a certified Scrum Master, but who isn't? Okay, 2 days. Yeah, I mean, come on, everybody has something to CSM. I rest my case. Okay? We've all done the CSM. Great. So what's an Agile coach? There's actually no, you can't even do it, maybe you can, I can get this wrong, but you don't actually pass the exam to call yourself an Agile coach, you just write it on your business card. Yes. Agile coach, I'm an Agile coach. I have a friend, he's like a walking library of all the stuff you're supposed to do. He's read all the books, he knows exactly why he's doing stuff the way he does it, he's got great concepts and ideas, and keeps coming up with new stuff. And I realized I was just flying on intuition. I was just doing what I thought felt right at the time, okay? So I felt a little bit insecure about calling myself an Agile coach. At the same time, companies were buying me as an Agile coach, not as a Scrum Master, because that's what we were charging. And one of the things that, so I went to a really good training by Lisa Atkins and Michael Hammond, I think was his surname. And it was really good, and the best bit about it was I realized lots of other people were faking it too. But the way I'd been faking it was actually quite right. So it was a total relief. It was like, oh my God, okay, I wasn't so far off the mark. But what comes up a lot is, and what we discussed is that what's a coach? Right? What is a coach? So we've got coaching on one side, professional coaching, we've got that kind of stuff. We really try to help people, particularly if they want you to help them and they're really interested in you. Okay, that's great. I've often thought that what I end up doing is more like being a football coach. So a bit more like that, that's the other word for coach. And I'm never really quite sure which word coach we're using. And then there's the idea of us being catalysts, which is like agents of change who are actually there. And if they're doing this kind of thing, we'll just automatically it'll start moving around us. And then there's the idea that sometimes we're being consultants. We're saying, well, this is how the process actually works. This is what you need to do. This is what the stuff is. I would recommend this. Okay. So this came up quite often. Agile Coach Camp, we would quite often discuss what are we. Okay. And out of this, what are we? What do we feel like? What are we doing? Is how this cartoon came about. So you can see the one consistent thing is that on Fridays I generally be found in the pub. Okay? All things impromptu. What do we decide? I held a session on the Agile Coach Camp in Open Space on Agile Coach Burnout. And one of the ways of countering that is to get together as Agile coaches on a Friday evening to discuss everything that went wrong during the week. So, this is like, well, the 3 C's anyone's done, there's user story stuff, that's new conversation cards and something else again. But that's just this whole thing about what's a coach. It's such a nebulous term. We don't really have a good term for it, okay? Now, the kind of coach I'm not is the following kind of coach. Okay? Beer and tree huggers will come up in the cartoons a few times. I have admitted that a couple, it's not actually been recently, it was a few years ago, quite a few years ago on the stage, I'd say 4 or 5 years ago maybe, there was a whole wave of, seemed to be a whole bunch of Scrum Masters that were just totally into empowering the team and like, it's systemic and we're going to look at the team. And I go, that's not actually the reason why we're doing that job. Not actually the real reason why we're doing it. It's nice that we're doing this, it's nice for people, but it's not actually why we're doing it, okay? So I had a bit of a hang-up about their way of doing things, and I thought they were overdoing it. That's, as JD said, this is all my personal opinions, they're my cartoons, so this is not objective truth, it's just the way I felt about it at the time. And this is the kind of coach I'm not. I just think you can take this too far. There's a point where you say stop. If you need to do pirate-themed retros, there's something wrong with your retro. Either the retro is useful in itself, because it's a good meeting and it helps the team and they have a benefit from it, or it isn't. And they'll pay attention if they're enjoying it and it makes sense for them. You're not going to be able to make value for them in the retro. They need to find it themselves. You can ask them what they want. You can ask them about doing it again. Renee had a nice point about do we let them drop the retro and stuff like that? So the answer to that would be at the start, they've actually done it a few times and tried it out. No. If after 6 months of doing retros, it hasn't improved, then we can start discussing it. It'd be interesting to know why though. The interesting is why. Why is it not value? When other teams find it value. But you can go through that. So this is the extreme form of this. I mean, anyone who's done any singing, I was going to say singing with me is kind of wrong. You were probably singing, I wasn't. Can know that we cannot choose the key that easily. So here is, so here's why we, this is why I think we're doing Agile, okay? And I sometimes think this gets lost in translation. People get hung up on the ceremonies, they get hung up on time boxing, they get hung up on the artifacts, the ceremonies, and all this kind of stuff. I don't think that's why we're doing Agile. I think the reason why we're doing Agile is this. You don't get the project done, there's no point doing Agile. Okay? That's what we're here to do. We're not doing this to empower the team and to give them a couple. Okay? We're doing it to get something out there. Okay? That is our prime directive. The best way we think of getting this done is to have loads of really cool side effects. They're fantastic. And it's good for everybody. It can be good for everybody anyway. Mostly, you know, is what we're trying to do is get software out there. That gets lost sometimes. I really feel like it gets lost. People get blinded by time boxing, ceremonies, and this. They're doing Agile. They're not thinking about what did we set out to do in the first place? We set out to deliver something. So the next set of cartoons is some of the newer cartoons, and one of them that came up, and actually this is a throwback to happen. Actually, something happened back in 2011 in reality, but I relived. Okay, let's say in 2011 I didn't deal with it very well, and by the time I realized what was going on, I actually just went and quit my job from one day to the next. Okay? And one of the cartoons that's coming up here is actually a cartoon that got the most comments from replies on LinkedIn when I posted it, which I found interesting. So, My way of putting it normally is I can tell you about, I can open the door and say, there's the Agile world on the other side of this. I've been there, it's pretty cool, I have plenty of experience over there, it's a lovely, I think it's great. But I can't force you through this door. I can tell you what it's like over there, I can tell you how to get there, I can help you when we're there, but I can't make you walk through the door to get there, right? I can give you a small nudge. But there's no point, because you go through the door, you don't like it, you're going to come back anyway. Okay? But sometimes, what you do have, that's okay, I can respect that. But what I find problematic is when we have, and this happens, you can give it a team, mostly a group, but you can give it a team, and there's an element in this team that really is destructive. Okay? And you'll get this question, get a bunch of Scrum Masters together, and they'll say, we have this one guy, some people say, we've got one guy in the team, what do we do? He's pulling the team apart. Okay? That's that. It's not much of a punchline, you don't have to laugh. But the point is that I've reached that point where that person needs to get out of the team. There's just no point continuing. Okay? And I'd be the first person to say Agile isn't for everybody. But that's okay, that's grand. That's not a problem. But that person then should be in the team that you're making Agile. Okay, or that you're trying to Agilize, or whatever way you want to put it, right? So I think this is the one that actually got the most comments when it came up. The point is that, and here the other thing you'll notice if you read comics, management doesn't come off very well from my comics. For a rather simple reason, most of the managers I know are administrators and not leaders. And there's a big difference, okay? And what you're going to see here in the next one is the fact that single points of failure, people who are like experts in a certain thing, they get away with blue murder in some companies because nobody has the balls to move them somewhere else or to stand up to them. And this is the kind of excuses that you'll see when you say either he goes or I go. For me, there's a couple of red lines where you can say whether any Agile transition is going to work or not work. There's like warning signs, there's like things you go, if that happens, this isn't going to turn out well. And this kind of attitude, I mean, exactly, it's amazing how often when there's single point of failure, I'm not sure that it's called from one of in Knowledge Island or something like that. I'm not sure what the term is that they use in English for this kind of thing. But somebody who's like, there's always this like superhero who pulls everything to himself. And they're always afraid, don't touch him, he has to do this, he's the only one who can do this. He becomes a bottleneck. And he's not just a bottleneck in the physical process sense of a bottleneck, he's a knowledge bottleneck and he's a team growth bottleneck. And that's what I hate. And the idea is, oh yeah, but nobody else can do this, he's the only one. Bullshit. Of course other people can do this, you won't let the team grow with this. And if you're not going to do that, well then let's stop calling this thing Agile. And be honest with ourselves. You don't want to change anything. Okay, grand. That's good. I'm off. I'm not allowed to do that though, unfortunately. That's why the drink sergeant is there. He gets to do this, okay? And this is the one where it was funny. The comments on this were basically, well actually I did that. I did it too. And I felt like, oh, everyone's kind of going, look how far he is. And I was going, well, I did it too, it just took me about 3 months. You got to give them a fair warning. You got to make a case. You got to go to them and say, look, I see the following problems. I am not going to be able to successfully help you make the changes you want to make unless you're prepared to make some of the changes I think are necessary. Okay? So, honestly, if you don't start to move a few things, there's not much point in me staying here. It's up to you. But if you don't make any changes, I'm going to have to go, but I'm telling you now, and we can talk about this and work on it. So you don't obviously just turn your back and leave like that. Easy, you probably shouldn't if you want to get a job somewhere else. Now the next one is about the fact that it continues in this vein. It's actually quite rare that the cartoons don't normally actually hang together. They're normally just isolated incidents that happen, and I kind of put them up whenever they occur to me, which means you'll get like 8 cartoons in 1 month and 1 cartoon the next month. Based on my customers. So in the next one, it's kind of a continuation of this, but this actually happened to me at a customer. Change hurts. Change costs. Okay? And I don't know, I've been in so many customers where it's supposed to just happen beside everything, all the operative stuff's supposed to happen just on the side. We're going to become agile as well. Like obviously that works, right? Or in case in point where we put 4 hours a week, we need 4 hours a week for the teams to be agile. The rest of the time they're going to be waterfall. And you go, what do you think it costs? What is it allowed to cost? Right? What's the change allowed to cost? What are you prepared to sacrifice for? Do you really want this change?
We can have more fun than those.
Said I can fail the same place.
One of the things you really want to know if anyone's interested in change. Are they prepared to change to the management level? Are they asking for coaching on the management level? Or are they just sending you down to the team? If you're just being sent down to the team, then ain't going to change. You can do some stuff down to the team, and you'll make some improvements down to team level, but it won't actually happen. Okay, you can do a local optimization on the team level, that's okay. And it can be fun to do that. But if they're trying to sell agile organizations, it's going to cost a lot more than that. That's, I actually had that, literally had that. I said to him, okay, so you want to do this, what's it going to cost? He said, well, I don't know, how much do you cost per day? That's not what I meant. So, I thought, because most people here didn't get to play rugby going to school, I presume. I'm going to take a bet on the only person who played rugby when he was in school. Okay. And people often wonder about Scrum. I've heard it called acronym. One of the worst things you do is write Scrum all in capital letters. Always a boring study. Scrum. I like the idea of Scrum because I play rugby and I understand what they're talking about. And so to put this into a bit of context, okay? That is a scrum. A scrum is actually physically a thing where they go down eight front row forwards, 8 forwards against 8 forwards in a rugby team. Okay? That's a scrum down. That's a scrum. Okay? It's not a scrum team, strictly speaking, but the scrum itself is 8 players against 8. Each one of those players has a different role and a different position. Okay? This is where the scrum thinking comes from, what I like about it, okay? That's the tight head prop, number 1. That's the loose head prop, number 3. Number 2 is the hooker, but not in the American sense of the word. His job was to knock the ball back with his foot. These guys, first 3 there, in the good old days when I played rugby, they were probably the shortest people on the pitch. Right? But they were as wide as they were tall, and they had no legs. If they go in like that against the other, you should see these guys. Back in the day when it was all amateurs, they had your bellies falling over the top of their shit. It's just like, they could spend the whole match and never touch the ball. That wasn't their job. Their job was something else. Locks are middle row, 4 and 5. You have open-side flanker or wing forward, blindside flanker, wing forward, and number 8. These guys had to be, these 3 here had to be particularly, they're the tallest, 4 and 5, locks, tallest, biggest, strongest people on the pitch. They're the line out, the ball gets thrown in, their job is to catch that, okay? These days they allow lifting, so they probably get up to 2.5 meters, 3 meters when they catch that ball. Okay? They bring it down, everybody closes in around them. These 2, here in particular, are blue like backs. The backs are the guys lining up behind the rugby team, okay? Their job is to be pretty damn fast and nifty, and they have to be fairly strong too, because they keep ending up crushed to the bottom of a wall with about 16 bodies on top of them, so it's good to be. Number 8 is also a really good ball carrier, and it's quite tall. That's the Scrum team, guys. It's a whole bunch of different positions and roles doing one thing. I like the analogy. Most people don't know it, though. I mean, I'm sitting there today when I saw a picture of a Scrum team very today, I'm not sure who should put that in their thing, and I kind of go, is that Italy versus the All Blacks, or is it? It looked like it. So I was just, the irony is I was thinking that here we have this sort of chain effect that you normally see in waterfall projects. And I was playing around with that. The irony is that's how the backs line up in a rugby team. They don't hold hands, obviously, that much. So, one of the necessary evils is Jira. Okay? Like, it's just one of those things you can't avoid, but it's just always there. Okay? It doesn't mean you can't use paper. You still use paper. Paper's good, but we need to document everything because we're still in a command and control environment at the end of the day. So we need to document everything. So I was doing all this stuff in Jira with the teams, and I realized that I could sort of tell an awful lot about how the team was doing based on our burn down charts in Jira. Now, you could argue we have a burn down chart outside of Jira, but we actually have a pretty good Scrum board. You can see pretty well how the team's doing. But here's the kind of things I noticed when I was looking at the Jira stuff. I see a lot of this, and it's a lovely warning sign, because I know exactly what's happening. If I could, I would elevate testers to a much more important role than they have at the moment, also in terms of defining requirements and showing what the customer's point of view. You see this last minute stuff going on? Yeah, I might even talk about that. Yeah, I've seen this quite a bit too. Yeah, not exactly, I've seen it. I mean, we often got there, but sometimes what would happen is it would shoot across the top, drop down, hit the midpoint, just here. We drop down and then go across and down. But yeah, you can sort of tell a little bit about how, you can tell quite a bit about how the team's doing, okay? Which brings us then to the personality of the teams. Where do we have, what was the endless optimism? Did you JP say to me? We're full of endless optimism, we're just going to do that. No, who was talking about the compilers? I think it was Kevin at the start. Yeah, it was Kevin at the start, I think. That's this. So velocity charts over time. I had this going on here, right? I had this going on here at one point, and thankfully, one of the developers finally said, guys, we never do more than 40. Ever. Stop. And I was like, thank you for saying that. And it was great, because after that, they started being realistic about what they could get done. I mean, I was doing calculations based on what they were getting done anyway, but now they could do it too. And yeah, sometimes it really does this for quite a while. The slight problem, though, is it's ironic that Kevin was talking today so much about velocity and speed and all this kind of stuff, because the next one is based on experience that a friend of mine had. Is if you take the time to read this chart, I think at the end it says it correctly. But Jeff Sutherland, I think he did us a great disfavor when he said he was doing twice the work in half the time. Okay? That's the definition of Taylorism. And I think if you want to take a look at the example, I'm over here and trying to explain, and somebody says, it's come up, and you get this all the time. I ask it when I'm doing Scrum trainings and people, or Agile trainings, and people say, well, yeah, is Agile faster or slower? And is an Agile team faster or slower than a waterfall team? I normally get faster, or they're the same, or something like that. My view is they're normally slower, in the sense that they care more about quality. And then you'll always get that remark where they say, yeah, but Agile projects are just as late as waterfall projects. And I go, yeah, quite often, if not more so sometimes. The difference is, if we take the analogy of an airport, if I've got a waterfall project, at the end of my waterfall project, I have 70% of the control tower, 70% of the runway, 70% of the terminal, and 70% of my tunnels. Same point of time in my Agile project, I have a runway and a control tower and nothing else. But I can land planes and they can take off and passengers can just have to stand in the rain until we finish McDonald's. That's the difference. It's effectiveness. Agile teams are more effective than waterfall teams. But not faster. Which brings us to something that we're very familiar this morning. The reality of velocity over time versus what management has been sold. We had this happen, that last point. The Scrum Master got fired because he didn't increase velocity. Because velocity is an agile principle that has to be doubled regularly. Okay? He literally got fired for that. If you're in that environment, it's probably just as well that you're not fired from there. Okay? If you look at it, and this is it's actually based on reality, he did a fantastic job holding the whole shit together. There's a lot of changes going on all the time. What they get sold is this. It's an illusion. So, let's see, we've only got a couple of minutes left. Let's go on to the Spotify model. I couldn't. Yeah, 5 minutes, yeah. Actually, it's 6. Okay.
Now you have 5.
No, yeah, that was very my velocity side. So Spotify model, I could not bear to hear about the Spotify model. If I could, you know, when YouTube takes down videos, they could please take down the Indiva video where they show the bank doing Agile. Please take it down because it gives huge, big industrial-sized banks the impression that they can become Agile, and they insist on talking about it. We're going to put tribes up, we're squads, and teams, we're going to do this, we're going to chapters, we're going to chapter leads, we're going to do this, and all this kind of stuff, okay? And it's just so much bullshit. Okay? Now, I was on a course with the Joachim Suttonhead from Spotify on scaling Agile using Spotify model. Fantastic. It's really great. When you hear it from a horse's mouth, they did loads of experiments that went pear-shaped. Okay, stuff didn't work. They tried out something new. They did this, they did that. They learned, they changed. They didn't go in and say, here's a blueprint. Okay? That's not what happened. So when you actually hear about it, it's great, and they're still changing it. Okay? But I did have a bit of an allergic reaction, because mainly I heard great big managers in banks telling me how they were going to make their bank agile based on this. And I was kind of, yeah, you're a bank, and they are a startup music streaming company. There are a lot of similarities there. It's going to work well. So this is what when I hear managers talk about Spotify, it sounds a bit like this. Oh, it's on the internet. You don't need to take a picture.
I have to send it immediately now.
I really can't listen to them talk about it. Okay, they don't know what they're talking about. Like I said, this little sergeant hadn't hit anybody in a while, so it was time to kind of get pissed out again, so he had to lay him out. So that was it. So, we're going to skip over Scrum Block. Although, you just ensures the programming. So I had Scrum Block was here. I decided we're going to use artificial intelligence and stuff we're going to create, because I mean, what's the most useless part of Scrum team? Scrum Master. Who's the Scrum Master? Waste of space. So we're just like automate. We're using AI and chat technologies and stuff, and we're going to create a Scrum Block, okay? So yeah, that happened 2 cartoons ago, we created Scrum Block. And recursive algorithms do my head in, okay, when I wrote it. It literally do my head, and I just get so confused, because we go down, and we go back up, and then we go back down, and we're calling ourselves all the time. Why doesn't anything break? And I wrote one once to solve a mathematical problem, and I went, oh my god, it's so cool, it works, and I had no idea. And actually, that's actually an infinite loop. But as I said, I send you emails to Alexa, and then it breaks the loop. So I thought that was going to be fair. So I was to, we'll finish up with, I was good coach, bad coach. This was nearly worth it. Agile entropy. Why do we need agile coaches? Why do we need keep coming back into stuff like that? Because I've seen this happen. You leave, and entropy sets in, and we start reverting back to where we were before. So this is like good coach, bad coach. When I come in, I just go, guys, geez, you're hurting me. What did I teach you? So that can work. So you can now do that as depressing. Okay, hang on. Oh yeah, here, just for the fun of it. Scrum versus Kanban. This next one is a joke. It's not serious, but I thought it was funny at the time. Just enjoy this. I've got a lot of Kanban in my defense, and it says there is a note underneath the cartoon. So, I'm going to skip over the point is I rescue class here, Agile transitions, who couldn't love them. All right, oh my God. Yeah, it was. I'll leave that too. I realize there's a certain hypocrisy in what I'm doing. Everybody's flooding the market with their take on everything, and I'm just as guilty as everybody else's. He's in the room, by the way. Tell the cartoon back roll. So, nearly there. I'm going to skip over this one actually, I don't have time. But, yeah, 300. Finally, there we go, perfect time. This,
As always.
What is coming? This is what happened to you over here on a Friday night with your friends. They put an idea in your head that you just can't get rid of afterwards, which is only by drawing it. Yeah, my friend, I think he's like Dave, Liverpool, talks like this. He had a moustache like that at the time, because it was like November, where these guys grow moustaches in November for the prostate cancer stuff. And he had a moustache like that, and it was all lined up and yeah. The only way to get rid of it was actually put it in the cartoon.